Hello, my name is Emma Pivato. Our daughter Alexis is considered profoundly disabled. She cannot see, sit up independently. She has no functional use of her hands, and we have therefore been unable to develop any formal communication skills. At a very early age, she showed the capacity to understand the toileting process. This was a fairly simple process when she was a baby because she was light and small, and she also had low tone, which means she wasn't stiff and she could bend easily, and we could put her on a little pot in front of I could put her on a little pot in front of me and sit on the floor behind her and support her back so that she could relax and function. But obviously it got harder as she got older, and we went through many different adventures with Alexis because of that. We had, for example, a portable commode, and for 2 years we were able to actually keep it in the summer at West Edmonton Mall in their first aid room. And she had 2 happy summers in the water park and on the rides and so forth. She has a right to be able to use public washrooms just like anybody else. That's why we have wheelchairs, so people who are immobile become mobile. That's why we have curb cuts, so wheelchairs can actually function on sidewalks and roads. So I thought, well, wheelchair. So I went back to Edmonton. Alexis was due for a new wheelchair anyway, and the people at the Glenrose very kindly agreed to attempt to put a commode unit into the chair. We had a very clever technician named Peter Jarvis who examined the chair and then told me the bad news, which was that the chair had crossbars underneath it. So how could we possibly fit a pot in? I thought, well, here we go again, another door slamming in our face. But he thought, wait a minute, I think I have a solution. So what he did was to develop a pot which is shaped like an hourglass. It fit very neatly between those crossbars. It had ample room in the top half, and it worked wonderfully. His whole chair worked wonderfully, and we used it for several years. But the problem is Alexis kept growing. So then we had to move on to a second chair. I went to Gold Care, at that time it was called, a home supply store for people with disabilities. And I met another kind person there who found an old wheelchair in the back, and he turned it into a reclining chair by literally loosening the back and keeping it tightened with 2 hooks. And so that meant that when you undid the hooks, the chair fell flat into a completely table-like position and would work very easily as a change table. And he said to me, why do you even want to bother with a pot? Why not just make, this was a very big chair actually, it was somebody's second-hand chair, bigger than Alexis. This will fit easily over a toilet. So we said, oh great, we'll do that. So he built the chair that way, and we tried it out, and I took it to the first public washroom. Lo and behold, it did not fit over the toilet because, of course, the toilets in handicapped washrooms are raised. So another little problem. Fortunately, he had built in the pot, the mechanism to hold the pot so that we could slide a pot in and out as needed. So we were able to use that chair until we went to Mexico with it, and one of the luggage handlers dropped it off the plane, and it was bent very much out of shape. Anyway, that's when we met Dirk Koss, and that's the chair that he produced. He worked to develop specialized equipment for children with disabilities in Edmonton. He was a wonderful person, and we worked with him. He measured Alexis, he looked at Alexis, we went out to see him several times. He built the chair around her. And originally he built the arms wide. They were actually pieces of board covered with vinyl. And his theory was, because we were talking about the lifting was hard, his theory was we could lift her up on a board stretched across here and put her down here to undress her, and then somehow lift her again and put her onto the commode unit. Well, we took this chair to Mexico, and we took this chair to Canmore, and we took it a lot of places. So in 2008, I started thinking about a chair with a built-in lift, that could maybe solve our problems. So by 2010 or 11, I was fortunate enough to get a small grant from my university, and I found a company in Calgary recommended to me because they did computer simulations so they could kind of work out a picture of what things would look like in advance, and maybe that way we could avoid some of the pitfalls we'd run into up to this time. So then they developed this chair. This sling was developed by Joe. We spent over $1,000 buying 2 different toileting slings, which were supposed to be the best. They didn't work at all. Then we had a friend who's an expert sewer make another sling, but it was too big and cumbersome, and it still didn't work. So Joe made this sling, put it together with pins, and we went to Campers Village, where there's this very nice lady who was interested in Alexis, some of the positive experiences we've had in our life are around things like that. And she sewed it all up and almost didn't want to take any money for it. Joe had to force it on her. So that's how this sling came to be.
Okay, up we go. The thing about this chair is it makes a big, she goes up in the air very high.
Yeah,
there you
the
go.
chair does not raise her.
Isn't this fun? You're way up there. Hey, good morning.
So I'm just going to pull this out to demonstrate.
You can pull out.
That you have plenty of access to her clothing here, and you can get it down very well.
You end up putting the thing back and put the pad on the seat, and then sit her on the pad, and then bring it around her body, and then lift her up and adjust it. That's the way it is. So you're going up and down several times. That's the best way of doing it.
She never objects, and she feels quite comfortable and quite safe.
You're all the way down. Now we're going to go into the fancy chair, okay? Here we go.
Boy.
So we take the pillow out. And there you go. Again,
So
you can adjust your clothes, so forth and so on.
But this time you can see that all of this is exposed so that we can manage to get her clothes down, lower her onto the commode, and when she's completed the process, we can raise her again, and we can dress her. So even though there isn't much space, there is enough space, and it's enough space for cleaning purposes.
Yeah, that was pretty good, eh? You were very, very good. You were good there.
Excellent, Alexis.
Yeah.
I expect
We'll be making commercials in no time.
But you can see that she isn't really able to sit comfortably in that chair anymore. The next model after these would be built into the Tilton Space chair. Alexis has now actually deteriorated to the point where she can no longer use any of these chairs. She has a specially adapted chair, a severe scoliosis, and the engineer could do this. We know that it's possible. We have proof of concept. We have our prototypes. What I wanted to conclude by saying is, as I was working through this project, I did some research on 10 families with children as disabled as Alexis. I found that 9 of them could have been, 9 of the children in those families could have been toilet trained. But the barriers that people went into, the hurt backs from trying to lift people, the lack of facilities in public places, the resistance in the school from having to do all that lifting, when occupational health and therapy concerns, all of that defeated the purpose. But then somebody told me, you know, Emma, you're so focused on this population, but the real tragedy is in extended care hospitals where people are going in there continent, and in a couple of weeks they're incontinent because nobody is going to do all that lifting when they're in this condition through disease or whatever disability that's happened to them later in life, and they end up completely helpless. They're the people whose dignity is really shattered, and what about that population? And furthermore, wouldn't that be a better market? Those are people who had the expectation of being able to be accommodated by a toilet. They would pay money, surely, to have a chair that worked for them in this way. So we explored that possibility, and I did some work on why we needed this chair, the importance of human dignity, the dehumanizing effect of what was happening in hospitals, and what were our rights as Canadian citizens in terms of quality of life when we looked at all the different ways we accommodate all kinds of different people, and how this particular issue has just slipped through the cracks